So now it's time for us to review. So this is Calculus 1 review. And I broke down our topics into 3 groups. So the first group was limits. This was chapter 2 for us. Our second group of topics was derivatives, which was chapter 3 and 4. And our third grouping is integration, which was chapter 5. And so now we're going to start with our very first group, which is limits. So let's start there, and we're going to look at several examples here. So let's say I want to find the limit, the following limit. The limit is x goes to 1 of x plus 2 over x plus 3. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to plug in your number in place of x. That's always the first thing you try to do. So start by plugging in 1 in place of x. And here you get 3 over 4. So that will be our limit is 3/4. Let's look at the next example. Find the limit. The limit as x goes to -3, x squared plus x minus 6 over x plus 3. So again, the first thing you want to do is plug in your number in place of x. So if I plug in -3 here in place of x, so I'm getting 9 minus 9 over 0, or 0 over 0. Now remember, when you get this 0 over 0, this is an indeterminate form, which means we cannot determine the limit based on that. On 0 over 0, we don't know what the limit could be. So we've got to do something else other than just plugging in our number. So for here, notice that I have a rational function. I have a polynomial over a polynomial. So what we could do is we could factor here. And really, the bottom doesn't factor. The only thing that factors is the numerator. And it factors into 3 and a 2 plus 3 and a minus 2. So if you notice, you have an x minus 3 in both the numerator and denominator, so you can cancel those away. And now you're looking at the limit as x goes to -3, x minus 2. Now you can plug in -3 in place of x, and you'll get -5. So there's my answer. So remember, key thing is if you get 0 over 0, you can't determine the limit when it's 0 over 0. So you got to do something else. Let's look at our next example. Find the limit. The limit as x goes to 0, x plus square root of x plus 1 minus 1 over x. So again, we're going to start by trying. The first thing we always try is just plug in the number and see what happens. So here, if I plug in 0 for x, I get the square root of 1, which is 1. I get 0 over 0. Again, I get that indeterminate form. So I need to do something else here. And I noticed that in the numerator I have this square root. So what I'd like is for that square root to go away. So what I'm going to do is multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. So just change that -1 to a +1. Change the sign in the middle. So I multiply top and bottom by the same thing. So I'm multiplying by 1. I'm not changing anything. But now, when I distribute, remember in the top you have to FOIL in the top. So when you FOIL, you're going to get x plus 1. The square roots will cancel. And then the inner and the outer term will cancel because they have opposite signs. So you just have first and last here. And I'm just going to leave the denominator like it is. I'm not going to multiply or distribute that out. So now if we simplify in the numerator, we're going to get x. And you should notice that now these x's cancel here. So really, I'm just looking at the limit as x goes to 0, 1 over the square root of x plus 1 plus 1. So if I plug in 0 now, I'm getting 1 over 2 for my limit. Okay, so again, we got 0 over 0, which means we couldn't determine the limit. So we had to do something different here because we had a square root. We multiplied by the conjugate. And we were able to cancel just like the last problem and then plug in our number.